There are certain words and phrases that you use in the CELPIP exam, and the examiner is instantly going to say, all right, this person has a very weak level of vocabulary. Put them under the 7 category, just like the rest of the students. Because one thing is, you use basic words, basic grammar, and basic punctuation, you're going to lose marks because if you want a 9 or more, you need to be super advanced. Doesn't matter if you're using the correct grammar and everything. If it's basic, if it's common, if 90% of other candidates are using these words and phrases and you are too, you're never going to score more than 9. So today we're going to look at those words and phrases that you should avoid. They are a death sentence in CELPIP. And if you use them, you lose marks. So the first word we're looking, or the phrase we're looking at, is I'm looking forward to. A lot of you use this, right? And you would be shocked why this is on the list. Is because a lot of you use it. If you're not unique enough, if you're not standing out with complex usage, you will lose marks. So if you use I'm looking forward to in the informal writing, task 1, it is obviously incorrect because with friends or family, we don't say I'm looking forward to. So you're not being natural. You lose marks there. If you use it in the formal letter writing, email writing, you still lose marks because it is the most common and basic thing to use. You could have easily memorized this. So either way, you're losing, and you should just get rid of this from your vocabulary. Instead, use hzadeducation's templates that can be found in the description, that can be found all over YouTube. And if you want the most updated version with samples, check out the course in the description that allows you to use all the templates to their best capabilities. Now, the next word we're going to look at is so. Again, all of you use it. These are the things I've commonly noticed in reviews, okay? Everybody's saying so. So, if you're using this for a conclusion, you should be using therefore or hence or thereby, consequently. There's so many better advanced words, connectors, conjunctions to use, but you end up using so, you instantly show the examiner that you are a basic speaker or writer, because everybody says this. And you might think everybody says this, why can't I? Well, it's not a day-to-day language kind of exam that we're doing. We're trying to use very fancy English that we don't even use in day-to-day life just to get a 9 in this exam. It's overcomplicated, but this is what it is. So don't use so. If you are using so in place of and, there are so many conjunctions you can use. You can use furthermore, also, accordingly. We'll get to that later because there's a similar word to so that you guys use a lot. But please do not say so in writing or speaking. The next one is, I'm writing this email because. Again, more than 80% of the times I see this in the writing task 1. Please don't say that. Just say the purpose of my writing is, it is different and it's not something that the other 80% people will be using. You want to use this at the start of your formal email. And when you go to the informal email, you don't even say this, all right? In the informal email, we're not supposed to mention the purpose. We're supposed to be friendly and just do the greeting there. But please don't write something so common like, I'm writing this email because. As soon as we see this, we're like, okay, this is just the same thing that I've seen in the other 80% of the students. So don't give the examiner a bad first impression at the start. Let's go to the next one. To whom it may concern. This is not incorrect, but CELPIP wants you to write, we're talking about writing here, to write in a personal manner. A lot of times in the question, the name or the designation of the person would be given. So you could start with Dear Mr. Bob, Dear Mr. Manager, Dear Miss Sarah, whoever, okay? And it's always better to go that personal route. In some questions, they tell you start with Dear and whatever. So follow that, of course, and if the instruction is not given, do not say to whom it may concern. It's a little bit antiquated. It's also too formal, and it just doesn't work in the CELPIP format, which asks you to be more personal, okay? Next one is and. So this is where I was saying that we're going to discuss this later. And, of course, is a word you cannot avoid. You have to use it here and there. But if you overuse it, which is what I see happening most of the time, then it is a problem, because there are so many better things you can do. If you have 2 parts of a sentence that you need to separate with and, you can do that at one place or 2. But in the other place, you can put a semicolon, for example, and separate the 2 clauses. This shows your use and grasp of advanced punctuation. Okay, so you can use a semicolon, or you have a whole list of connectors. You can check them out again on our channel, hzadeducation connectors, and you'll be able to see many of them. But to give you some clues, you can say furthermore, also, moreover, likewise, similarly, accordingly, and so on. If you want to use a phrase, you can say on the other hand, apart from that, on top of that. And you can also use adverbs, surprisingly, conclusively, amazingly, and so on. There's so many options to use, so many complex phrasing that you can use, that it just does not make any sense for you to use and that's why examiners don't like it. It's also very repetitive and basic. The other thing is you need a range, right? So everything that I said, all the different connectors I mentioned, as well as the combinations. So you have adverbs, phrases, just the one-worded connectors. Use a mixture of them, okay? Don't just use one thing repeatedly. All right, this is for speaking and writing, by the way. And that's why. Okay, so that's why, again, it's a very common thing we hear time and time again. We see it in writing time and time again. That's why I don't say it. And once again, you have good complex connectors or concluding words. You can say to conclude, overall, conclusively, therefore, thereby, and there's so many combinations. Just don't say that's why. It's just something that everybody says, okay? Be more advanced and complex. However, it's not a bad one. It's honestly better than saying but instead of but and however, you have, again, better complex connectors like nevertheless and nonetheless. Honestly, just memorize these two. There are more. You can make 5 more combinations from this, but just say nevertheless and nonetheless. That's usually enough for a speaking task or writing questions. You don't have too many places where you contradict. So just for your entire exam, nonetheless and nevertheless are enough for you. And if you end up using the 3 conjunctions of contradiction, nonetheless, nevertheless should go first, then however, and if you're using a 4th one, which is really unlikely in any task, then you can use but. But having the best ones at first gives a good first impression, and most likely you will not need more than 2. So nonetheless, nevertheless, remember that. I is also a problem because you guys use it way too much, okay? Instead of saying too many I's, I did this. Use passive voice. This was done by me. Okay, use a combination of passive and active voices to keep a variation in the sentences, and doing this gets you rid of too many personal pronouns. It looks very basic when we keep repeating I. It is repetitive as well, and it's not a combination of active and passive voices. So don't overuse I. Look and see. This grammatically does not work, but people use this when they have to emphasize a point. Look, I gotta tell you something. Or see, the problem is, and this is how you start sentences. Don't start sentences like this, okay? If you want to say something here, I like 2 words, well and now, okay? So I would say, well, there's something I gotta tell you. Or now, let's move on to, that is okay. Grammatically, that is okay. But look and see at the start of sentences is not okay because you're not really looking and seeing anything. So don't use that to elaborate whatever you're trying to say. Final thing is extreme words. I mentioned here, and I've taught, and you know if you have done the exam, that you need to use complex words, not extreme words, okay? So I've seen examples of places where people are trying to be fancy, which is good, but you got to pay attention to how the context is being applied. If you're sitting in a restaurant and you don't like the service and you said that the service was horrific, it's wrong. A service in a restaurant cannot be horrific. It's not scary. It's not like a murder or something. You can say it's horrible. That's fine. It's better than saying the service was bad. Sure. So you did a fancy word, but don't say horrific. Okay? Or if you say that the movie was a mood killer, great. You're not using a basic word. You're not saying the movie was bad or uninteresting. You're using something better. Mood killer, great. But again, if you say the movie was detrimental to me, which is harmful, detrimental is for medicines or something that can kill you potentially, then no, it's incorrect. So avoid extreme words. It's not that you can just upgrade the word itself, but you have to use it in the right context. That's why it's advisable to go on thesaurus.com, but you also have to look at the sentences that are being made as examples. You can research on them. And again, if you want to check out 800 words that we provide here in hzadeducation, the words that you can use in the right context, they're mentioned in our course. You can check that out in the description so you don't make mistakes like these and understand the context. If you have any questions, feel free to email us. Email is in the description, and please like, share, and subscribe. We'll talk soon. Good luck.